Alright, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Inshallah, today our group, which is group 3, will present to you about the effect of fourth and fifth industrial revolution towards the quality of IIUM students. Alright, next slide, please. Okay, before we go further, I would like to tell you about our sections, our division in this presentation, which are first, introduction and relevancy and relational of topics, kind of methodology, result of the project, findings, outcomes, and conclusion, inshallah. So next slide. All right, before we go further, I would like to tell you about what we call the definition or the introduction of fourth and fifth industrial revolutions. But before that, let's watch this video. Okay, based on that video, we already know, in fact, before this, there have been 3 revolution industries that took up to a century in the process of the revolution. But based on that video, I will just focus on fourth and fifth revolution. All right, so as you can see in the slide, the definition of fourth industrial revolutions actually is a term. It's just a term that used in the modern manufacturing world to denote the fourth industrial revolutions, which means we use the technology as much as possible in facilitating the affairs of our daily lives. And also we use the machine or automation revolution to ease our daily life tasks. But if there was no what we call fifth industrial revolution, all right, next slide. Which known as the revolution in which man and machine reconcile and find ways to work together. All right. So we know that the benefit of fifth industrial revolution is what we call to save the human being actually, because if industrial revolution 4 can end up restructuring human tasks in the realm of manufacturing and also in other field of works, because maybe for the example, the boss in the company more interested to relying on hiring on the technology rather than human as their workers. So yeah, the revolution or fifth industrial revolution, also known as the future revolution, have its own benefit. Same goes to fourth industrial revolution. And that's the issue that I want to highlight in the general, but there are actually many issues that comes from this kind of industrial revolutions. And inshallah, at the end of this presentation, you will know the solutions to overcome it. And that's all from me, and I will pass this presentation to our next presenter, which is Brother Naimullah, inshallah.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhamad bin Kahalit, metric number 2015639. Thank you to Brother Aiman for explaining the introduction part of our presentation today. And now I'm going to continue with the relevancy and the rationale of the topic. Okay. So why in the first place we chose this topic? Okay, we come to realize that our education system nowadays in Malaysia, okay, prompts the students to struggle in their studies. Okay, why? Because we know that in our among our students and even our teachers, they are struggling so much, okay, to get A's, okay, and what do we say, to have good achievement in their study or in their academics, for the benefit of their future jobs. Okay, and we also know that there are many evolution, or what do we say, improvement, okay, made by the government of Malaysia, okay, for the benefit of our educational system, for the benefit of our student. For example, like we move from the traditional to modern ways of teaching, and we come to learn many learning approaches and many learning styles. Okay, it's not learning approach but teaching approach. I'm sorry. And then we come and we encounter many interactive applications that we can use. Okay, for the teachers, okay, to make sure that the students are really interested in their studies. But when we try to look deeply in this situation, we see something fishy in it. Why? If we try to sustain with this system, okay, we found out that we are going to be dehumanized gradually and become non-tawhidic in some part. Okay, so we are going to explain to you a little bit more after this. So how does this system, current system, can be dehumanized, okay, to our students? Is because when we as teachers, okay, or the government, it's not government, but the authorities, okay, um, does not inculcate the values that the students have to receive when they learn, for example, history, okay, and then Islamic subjects, okay, they're not going to have these values, but instead they're just going to go and study for the benefit of their academic performance. That's all. So this is what we do not want. And the next one is about Tawhidic, is that we rarely and we hardly can find, okay, what do we call the term God, okay, or the creator of the universe in, for example, the natural science subject. And this is very concerning for us as Muslims, because we do not want to produce this atheist mindset of our students, whereby they do everything in their life, but not to have this basic thing in their life, which is to have this strong core of believing that every single thing in this world have to be based on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, based on the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So to reflect on the fourth and fifth industrial revolution towards the quality of our student, we believe that this IR, or industrial revolution, okay, what are the impacts of theirs towards this quality of the student, is that they're just going to produce robots, okay, in the factory, that they are going to produce their goods, their products. But at the end of the day, these human, they don't have these humanistic values. What I mean is that the value of loving the environment, for example, be accountable of their deeds or their actions towards the environment, for example. So if we don't try to inculcate the students with these values, at the end of the day, not only the environment will perish, but also the students. Okay. And the fourth one is that robots versus human. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in Surah Al-Mu'minun, verse 115, did you think that we had created you only for play and that you would never be returned to us? This is the reflection that we have to do in ourselves. Okay, that the reason why we choose this topic is that we want to open the eyes of our community out there, that we have a specific role that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created for us, which is to become the Khalifa and the civic servant of him, and not becoming robots, or to be enslaved by these technologies or the industrial revolution. Okay, so this is the important thing that we have to acknowledge and be aware of. And the last one is that we believe that qalb is the remedy to this problem. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is apart from bestowing us with this aqal, okay, to think, to have this intellectual, to think for the benefit and for the development of the human throughout the history, we also have to consider the usage of the soul. We have to consider study of the qalb, okay, in order to produce this human, not robot. So inshallah, for the what do we say, for the discussion and the findings and also the result of our research will be presented by another presenters. Inshallah. For now, I'm going to proceed with Brother Syahier. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Syahier bin Hamidon, and my metric number is 2015071. And I will be continuing the presentation today with plan and methodology. So next slide. After spending an hour discuss together, we have come up with two plans, which are online survey and online research. We believe that these two plans are the best way to conduct right now to ensure our safeness and also to avoid physical contact with all the respondents. And it also took that as a precaution measure to avoid the spread of COVID-19. So Alhamdulillah, all those two plans, we managed to conduct it successfully. And here is the methodology of our research. So the location of study is at IIUM. And for the online survey, we have conducted it through Google Form because we believe that Google Form is the best survey-based software that we can use. And the target respondents of the survey is the undergraduate students of IIUM Gombak campus. It is regardless of kuliah. It means that everyone can answer the survey as long as they are the undergraduate students of IIUM. So we have managed to gather around 20 respondents, and all the data will be divided into tables or chart according to the suitability. And lastly, for the online research, we have surfed through multiple websites because there are a lot of reliable sources that we can use them. And we also refer to the related articles or journals related to the topics. And hopefully we can write a really well-written, inshallah. So that's all for my part, and I will pass the floor to the next presenter, which is Rene. Thank you.
All right, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So next, for the result of the project, I will present the result, which is my name Muhamad Iqmal Rosli and my metric number 2019699. All right, so we have been conduct an online survey. So the survey consists of three parts. The first part containing demographic questions. The second part deals with the impact of the 40th and 50th industrial revolution and their views. And the last part is the relationship of the COVID and how it can overcome the challenges of the 50th and the 50th industrial revolutions. All right, so next. So basically, the survey was conducted among 20 IIUM students of both genders, which 40% of whom were female and 60% were male. Four demographic questions were asked in the first part of the survey, including name, age, degree, program, and level of study. Okay, next. Okay, so all participant students were come from four different programs, which are Kuliah of Economics and Management Sciences, KENMS, Kuliah of Information and Communication Technology, KICT, Kuliah of Islamic Revealed Knowledge and Human Sciences, KIRKHS, and the last one, Kuliah of Education, COEC. Next. So in the second part of the survey, the 3 structured questionnaires and 2 semi-structured questions were administered to all respondents. The first question was designed to gauge the agreement of all respondents on their understanding of the concept of the 50th and 40th industrial revolutions. There were only 3 response options, namely yes, no, or maybe. The same was true for the second question, which asked respondents about their agreement with the impact of the 40th and 50th industrial revolutions on society. So here there were 3 answer options, namely yes, no, or maybe. Right, next. So the first semi-structured questions ask all respondents to explain their opinion on why they think that the 40th and the 50th industrial revolution can have an impact on society. The most common opinion was that the technologies make people's lives easier at work. Okay, it is also said that society could rely more on technologies, and that technologies could one day be an integral part of society, as well as technological advances replacing vacancies that were previously filled by people. And the last but not least, strong relationships between members of society are the key of the development. If the 40th and the 50th industrial revolution can benefit society, then perhaps society can be developed. All right, next slide. So the third structure question is the title different from is a little different from the first and second questions, where respondents were asked about their agreement with the view that the 50th and the 40th industrial revolutions can bring many benefits to students. In these questions, respondents were given a scale from 1 to 5, starting with strongly disagree to strongly agree. So here is the questionnaires on the screen. Okay, next. So the second semi-structured questions are ask all respondents to indicate on a scale how much they agree with the impact of the 40th and 50th industrial revolution on student quality. In summary, there are four opinions that are highlighted in this question. The first one is the technologies can facilitate students' studies, as they can easily search for information on their laptops or computers. Next, the students say that it will become difficult for students who are not familiar with these technologies to search for work in the future. And the next, students will facilitate the acquisition of knowledge and help students learn better. And the last but not least, more students will be better educated and the whole country could be more advanced and developed, because the better educated people are, the smarter the country and its economy become. All right, next. So the last part of the survey contains one structured question and three semi-structured questions. The structured questions ask all respondents if they were familiar with the concept of the spiritual heart or al-qalbi. So there were only three choices: yes, no, or maybe. All right, that have been presented in the screen. Okay, next. So for the semi-structured question of this last part, two questions were asked. The first one relates to the respondents' opinion on how we can meet the challenges of the 40th and 50th industrial revolutions in terms of student quality. In summary, students need to purify their intentions to overcome the challenges of 40th and 50th industrial revolutions. Next, no one can promise us that one will not do bad things with the technologies provided. Moreover, crimes like hacking are rampant. Ultimately, it depends on how well you use the internet. And the last but not least, have a deep understanding and knowledge of what the purpose of working on the industrial revolution is. Right, next questions, next slide. So the next questions relates to their proposed solutions to the challenges of 40th and 50th industrial revolution from the Islamic perspective. One of the suggestions is to increase knowledge about Islam and try to reduce hedonism, as the physical world is temporary but the hereafter is eternal. In addition, the respondents suggest trying to balance and reconcile the moral, spiritual, and normative aspect to meet the challenges. And the continuous simplicity of the industrial revolution and the Islamic law is also important. Instead of letting machines do everything, let some areas or tasks be done directly by humans. This is a matter of humility and balance. Last but not least, we should introduce or Islamize the 40th and 50th degrees according to the Quran and Sunnah to ensure the peace of the Ummah. And next slide, which is the last slide. The last question refers to the respondents' opinion on the subject in general. In their opinion, there are four highlighted issues. The first one is the issue was good for the development of the countries and the community. Moreover, we should be careful so that we do not go astray. Next, the student also mentioned that people's dependence on technology will increase. And the last but not least, in the long run, the industrial revolutions will probably lead to people becoming lazy, like in the film of Wall-E. So I think that's all from me. I will pass this presentation to the next presenters, which is Ahmad, Iqmal, Hakim.
Thank you, Brother Ikmal. I'm Ahmad, Ikmal, Hakim, Usman, 2010939, and we'll be presenting about findings. Next slide, please. From the data of the survey, researchers can conclude that all respondents were able to fully answer the survey, especially for the first section of the survey, which covered the demographic part. For the second section of the survey, most of the respondents still couldn't fully grasp the true concept of the fourth and the fifth industrial revolution. The fourth and fifth industrial revolution (IR) can be summarized as the combination of humans and machine in our life. The respondent also agree that the fourth and fifth IR can bring a major impact upon the society. The good part is this robots and AI, artificial intelligence, are dramatically altering the way of how we are working, playing, and living by replacing monotonous and extremely complex activities while assisting us with wise decision making. However, one bad way to look upon these technologies is that the machine we build are making us absolute. The robots will eventually surpass our human intelligence, and thus us humans will become absolute as we are enslaved by the technologies. Next slide. Putting the importance upon the effect towards the student quality in education, the rapid growth of technology has enabled the use of technology in learning, as it can be implemented in the classroom for all disciplines such as chemistry, physics, biology, etc. Uh, the interact the interactive aspect of technology also made it simpler for students to rearrange knowledge in their mind by using a multimedia environment that is perceived more clearly, concretely, and realistically. However, when there is a positive effect, there is also a negative effect. For the negative one, uh, there is a concern where students will become too dependent upon the technologies, which prevent their thinking to be holistic and creative as they become stagnant by time. Furthermore, not all students will be able to afford these technologies as the cost is too much expensive, and the balance and equality of education will be broken as the gap between the rich and the poor student will become wider. Next slide, please. The call, the Kalbi spiritual heart uh, versus technology. The Kalbi can be used in curbing the challenges brought by the fourth and fifth industrial revolution in keeping the students' quality in the education system, which has been tainted by the technologies, appear to lay less emphasis on the use of CALB practices in teaching and learning. This issue is forcing education to merely reach the mind and seep into the student hearts, not seep into the student heart. Therefore, the knowledge obtained by the student is not perfect. By applying COP in one's heart life, in one's heart, it also impacts the student, their human spiritual growth. As in today's world, where everything is possible within one's fingertip without any restriction, what is keeping us from doing bad deeds towards others is our heart. So it is important for us to emphasize a precise balance of ruh, akal, and nas, as well as the worldly progress with ukhrawi, as it further sets the moral growth in students in accordance with the Islamic way of life as the heart of human development as a whole, which emphasize the humans as the ummah of wasatan, which brings the meaning of the middle ground, the simplicity in kindness, justice, and moderation. And that's all from me. Proceed to the next presenter. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullah. So it's me again, Syahier. So I will present about the outcomes of the project. So for the outcomes of the project, we have decided to make an infographic poster. Next slide, please. So the infographic poster consists of multiple pages because we don't want to pack everything into one page. So this poster has been created by Ahmad Iqmal Hakim, designed by him, made by me, and improvised by all the other members. So we have spread this infographic poster across many social media platforms such as WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, and more. So overall, we have reached more than 100 audience, and the response to this infographic poster is overwhelming. So we can conclude that we managed to spread the awareness of the challenges of fourth and fifth industrial revolution, and how to overcome these challenges from the Islamic perspective. So I think that's all for the outcomes of the project. I will pass the floor to Brother Naimullah for the conclusion. Thank you.
Yeah, Assalamualaikum. So Alhamdulillah, we are moving towards the end of our presentation. So for the conclusion and reflection. IR, or Industrial Revolution, brings many benefits in our lives. It is undeniable, whether in terms of manpower reduction and also the overhead costs and something like that, and how we are moving towards modern life, a modern era, of our full of technologies and so on. However, we see that the excessive usage of technologies can bring bad influence. Yes, because any excessive thing in this world can lead to bad influence or bad outcomes. Yes, we have discussed about that on previous slides just now. And everyone should take part in realizing this problem, thus working on to solve the problem. Yes, every parties, not just individual, but also the teachers, parents, schools, okay, higher education institutions, higher educational institutions also should take part into coping and curbing the situation. And it is our duty right now to think and solve the matter before it gets worse. Yes. So I think that's all from us. We hope that every one of you who watched this video can benefit as much as you can. And please please visit the poster of infographic that we have prepared and provided for you. That's all from me. That's all from us, our group. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. See you next time.